We are going to talk about a movie.
This is gonna be a disaster.
It was one of the best movies of the year.
It's gonna go so well. Probably one of the last movies I would ever want to see in a theater.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of 10 Years On. I am your host, Jacob London, and today we're going to be talking about the films released on January 22nd, 2010. But before we get there, I'd like to introduce my panel. Taylor Robinson, how are you?
I'm good. This week there's nothing that I have to look forward to in terms of this conversation. There were 0 good movies that kind of helped ease the pain this week, so it's going to be a conversation.
It is definitely going to be a conversation. I am also joined by my other regular panel. Nick, how you going?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Very well.
Yeah, look, I share similar sentiments with Taylor. I think the one that sucked the most is one that I watched when I was 15 and I loved, and then it sucked this time around, and I was like, I wasted a lot of my childhood watching some shit movies. So, yeah.
And Peter, how you going?
Good. I have one positive thing to say about the movies today. And it rhymes with The Rock.
All right, well, let's kick it off. The wide release films of January 22nd, 2010 was Tooth Fairy, which released on 3,344 screens, Legion, which released on 2,476 screens, and Extraordinary Measures, which released on 2,549 screens. In limited release films this week, we had To Save a Life, Veer, Creation, The Girl on the Train, the 2010 film, Misconceptions, Watercolors, Murder in Fashion, and Drool. Ever heard of any of those films, guys?
No.
I feel like Misconceptions might have been some like Heather Graham movie.
I think...
And that makes me think that would make sense because she just kind of went nowhere. Sorry, Heather Graham.
The one that I've heard of is Creation, which is a
Okay.
Paul Bettany film about Charles Darwin.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one. So he had 2 films opening this weekend.
I feel like that one should have been called Creation instead.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about our first film, The Tooth Fairy. A bad deed on the part of a tough minor league hockey player results in an unusual sentence. He must serve 1 week as a real-life Tooth Fairy. Taylor, what were your
Yes.
thoughts on Tooth Fairy?
Well, look. This movie spends so much time on scenes that end up meaning nothing ultimately. This movie just feels like one big string of these scenes that just go on for 10 minutes and you go, I have no idea where this is actually supposed to be going. But also, it takes The Rock and says, no, we don't want him to be charming at all. We want him to just be an asshole, especially to children. So this movie really did not do anything for me the first time I watched it, and the fact that I had to watch it a second time in this lifetime also did nothing for me.
I agree. The biggest sin this movie makes is that it robs its lead of his biggest tool is his charisma. And here you just make him a mean-spirited person the entire time in the film. He is just mean-spirited. And I get that that's his character arc, but it's, that doesn't make much sense. Like, to take...
Well, it doesn't really go anywhere either. Like, by the end, you're just supposed to believe that he's a better person, but you don't really see much of that, because even during his supposed transformation, during his time as a tooth fairy, he's still, like, when he's having fun and laughing, it's more at, like, the expense of other people rather than anything that's actually funny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like he ever really goes through an actual transformation, and then at the end, you're supposed to be like, oh, wow, he's so good now, and he deserves to be a part of this family that he just
that he destroys.
But he got a montage. That's how we know. We got a Tooth Fairy training montage. That's how you know he's changed.
Yeah, no. What do you guys think?
Look, very similar. I didn't think it was a good movie at all. I kind of get the dickhead Rock sort of thing, because like during the WWE when he was a heel, that's sort of what his character was. So it wasn't as shocking to me as a fan of WWE, because I'm like, I've seen The Rock do this for many years. I agree. He's very mean spirited towards children. Like there is a hatred for children that I don't understand fully because all that young drummer boy was doing was existing. Was he a drummer or a guitarist? I don't remember. Guitarist. He played an instrument. They montaged it or something. And so I was like, you're being like a proper dick to this teenage boy who's like obviously going through puberty and he's like having identity crisis with, with not having a dad around and stuff. And none of the movie doesn't tell you any of this, by the way. Like this is stuff I just came up with in my head. But yeah, The Rock is an absolute, yeah. This movie should have been a Disney movie. Like, I feel like Disney could have done something with this premise a little bit better. It's a fun, silly Disney movie not made by Disney.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's mean, and the difference would have been they wouldn't have made it so mean-spirited.
But they had, you're right, though, because they had Dame Julie Andrews and everything. It had everything you needed to be a Disney movie.
Bless.
And she's honestly probably the only decent part of this film because she has some trash lines, but she's still just like Julie Andrews.
She's
and
trying.
I'm like, you know what? I can appreciate this. I love her. It's fine.
All right, Peter.
Look, I'm not going to defend the movie but I mean, people that know me well know that I love The Rock. Like, he's just, But
Fair.
And I agree that like his whole thing is that he's so charismatic and he's so charming and he can pretty much elevate even sort of the worst of movies. And yeah, he's so mean and you don't see him change, or well, they like you to think that he's changed and you sort of see it and just go, well, all he's now is like, he's nice to the kid who he's probably going to be the stepdad to. Like,
it's almost like
you
it's
being
like
nice
he
to your,
has to do
like,
it now.
you being nice to your son isn't a thing that we're going to like praise you for. And the thing was like, I found it surprising that he made this so far into his career.
Yeah.
Like he'd been probably working as an actor for like 8 years or so.
He'd already done like the Game Plan at this point, had he?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Right, yeah.
And
So
he'd
Game
done-
Plan was 2007.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he'd done like big action movies, and I think the year after this was like when he joined the Fast and Furious franchise.
Yeah.
So
he jumped to number 5, didn't he?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the next one. That's next year.
so it was disappointing to at least not have a remote bit of interest in him as a person because he's just beautiful, but not in this movie.
He's tiny in this film. This is
He's
like
like normal person buff in this
Yeah.
movie. Like,
Yeah,
where
like we say tiny, I'm like, he's ripped as
Oh yeah.
like
he
he's
is
shredded.
in
He's like
shape.
yeah, but you
like-
look at him
But,
now
like,
and just
he's
go,
an-
you're a behemoth.
he's like an almost obtainable amount of buff in this
Yeah.
movie, whereas now you look at him and go,
So, yeah.
nah.
Like,
It's the buff
Nah.
that makes me sad but not miserable, you know?
It's Marvel buff. Like
Yeah.
it's
Good
the
call.
it's
like,
you know
hey,
Paul
remember when
Rudd
Chris
and
Pratt
yeah.
got buff. This is kind of like that.
Yeah.
Now it's like The Rock looks like he ate Chris Pratt.
Well, so I don't think there's a recommendation around the board here for Tooth Fairy.
Look, I mean, I think there was some funny moments. Like there was parts where I giggled, I think. His scene with Billy Crystal, I know we've both
I
said.
admittedly, I was watching it going, this shouldn't be making me laugh because it is. It's a scene that goes on for far too long and doesn't really add anything. But I was like, I think maybe because at that point it was the first thing that made me remotely laugh that I thought, oh, it's not that bad. And then it just got worse.
It gets bad.
But I was like, if the movie kept this up, it might have been remotely like,
Yeah.
I don't hate myself for watching this. I don't hate myself for watching this, but I would have
And-
preferred to have not spent like 90 minutes.
I like the scene with Ashley Judd in the police station. He keeps throwing amnesia dust. He just keeps saying the wrong things. And he's like, amnesia dust, amnesia dust. I think I like it because I wish that was real. I wish I just had that. Like, I've said some dumb shit in my life, and especially to people who I care about. So, that would have been... And I love that Seth MacFarlane was in this for one scene.
His obligatory cameo.
as like
Yeah.
a tooth fairy dealer of something. Like he's like a shady
Black
he's the guy,
market dealer.
Yeah, he's the guy in a prison who's like, hey man, you want sandwiches? I can get you sandwiches. And it's like things like that. But he's like the Tooth Fairy. It's not a prison. They don't work in a
'Cause everybody in
concentration
prison
camp.
Like
wants
how-
sandwiches.
Sorry, yes. I don't know
like-
what they get in
but
prison.
like-
I've never been.
But
Not yet.
him as a character, Jesus, him as a character just completely contradicts the world they've built, because the world building they've done to that point shows like he can't really exist there without anyone knowing what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like someone
That's-
like
yeah, it
Julie
doesn't-
Andrews would know like what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, that there's this shady
But,
dude
like-
who's
so,
here
like-
because he wants to keep Family Guy on the air. Like that's sort of why.
But you sort of get that the whole thing about the Tooth Fairy Land is like it's meant to sort of be this like thing of purity and like we're all
Yes.
doing this for the right reason. So then you have Seth MacFarlane like being like, no, I'm gonna shit all over this and like sell
I can't even remember what he sells.
contra-
Contraband. But also, there's one more thing I want to say about this film, and this is shows how dated this film is. That The Rock asks someone to poke him on Facebook.
I'll poke you on Facebook, Dwayne Johnson.
I mean, it like how long did poking stay around for? We had that for a long time, did we not?
I don't think it was too long.
No.
But I remember like when I joined Facebook, there was a lot of like someone threw a sheep at me and like fuck off.
Yeah, fuck off, Farmville, piece of
and
shit.
then it just kind of went away. But I think 2010 it would have been probably
It was
a
like
thing to
peak
do.
Facebook poking.
But I
but-
don't think someone The Rock's age would ask someone to do that.
I don't remember who we asked, but I can see.
Stephen Merchant,
Yeah,
who is
Bleh.
god awful in this film, like
So
just
bad.
Like,
awful.
Yeah, that's like
God.
another conversation that we don't want to have.
No, we don't need to have
Like-
it. So, but I don't see people watching this movie 10 years from now understanding why The Rock is asking to poke Stephen Merchant without any sort of sexual undertone. So,
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't even want to get into.
it's a
I don't-
family movie. Let's not forget, it's a family movie.
Well, with that being said, Stephen Merchant does nothing to help this movie in any way, shape, or
He's-
form.
Genuinely awful.
It's just, it feels like it's his first acting role, where it's just bad. Like there's no chemistry. Like there's no. It almost feels like he's trying too hard to care about what he says, where it just comes off as like, oh, that's.
It's like
just-
grossly
yeah,
desperate. It's like
yeah.
a weird desperation
Like you
of
can
like
almost
making
see
his
him,
character
like, it's almost
likable.
like you can see him thinking of like
Yeah.
what I've got to say next, whereas
Yeah.
it's like none of this feels natural at all.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Which is weird because he's proven he is a very talented and
I love Stephen Merchant. I think
very
he's
funny comedian.
Yeah.
But I think this movie just robbed everyone of their talent.
Yeah. Or Julie Andrews.
I-
The last time we've physically seen her on screen.
yeah.
So sad.
Come on, Princess Diaries 3. Come on.
Hurry up. Actually come out. All right, guys. Let's move on to the next film, Legion. When a group of strangers at a dusty roadside diner come under attack by demonic forces, their only chance for survival lies with an archangel named Michael, who informs a pregnant waitress that her unborn child is humanity's last hope. Where have I heard that plot before?
It writes itself.
Okay, so
I just, while you read this, I was just staring at the poster that was up on the screen, and like, the poster is the perfect representation of what this movie is. Like, it just looks like someone threw some stuff on it and was like, yeah, the story writes itself.
It
It's
looks like a
fine."
fan-made
Like, it
poster.
does, it's
it
so
looks like someone,
bad.
so like a 15-year-old kid, just like got a picture of Paul Bettany looking up, plastered some wings on it, and then
And
he's
then
like,
put,
looking
look at
ripped.
the gun. Like, look at how the
Oh my god, I've never noticed how like that's he didn't pose with that in his hand.
how good's that?
way.
That's brilliant.
Oh no.
I've never really
I've
looked
never
at this for a
looked at
long
it.
amount of
Now-
time before.
Now that is the only thing I see.
I know, because it doesn't even look like a real gun, like to size or like
Yeah.
a weight. Like, what is that?
Oh, we could do a whole thing on just the poster
That's
alone.
fantastic. I actually probably would have preferred just watching the poster for 100 minutes.
Like one of those motion capture ones. with,
Yeah,
like,
the
a
wings
ring.
are slowly moving. Yeah.
Ah.
The sun's just shimmering a little bit at the top,
His abs glistening.
and Legion just keeps fading in and out. And it would have been way more interesting than the movie.
I think we just found a new show. You.
Pimp my poster. We just sit here and revel
Can
in.
we all just make alternate posters to bring to class every week that are just better?
Like worst photoshopping wins.
Guys,
So
I think-
Legion. This movie's not good.
Nah.
This movie's
No,
not.
it's really not. It takes a story that we've heard 1,000 different times, does nothing interesting with the story. The middle half of the movie literally doesn't know what to do. Like, you have your typical beginning of the movie and your typical end of the movie in terms of this story. And then the middle is just like, fuck. Like,
Yeah.
we're in a diner, so I guess let's just
A
fucking...
dusty diner.
A dusty
dusty
diner somewhere somewhat close to Arizona, apparently, because they're trying to go to Scottsdale with like that weird rich family that gets caught in the middle
Yeah.
of everything.
That's right.
Like, guys, I don't even know where to start with this movie because first of all, it sucks because they do nothing interesting with the story. Like, they start to kind of towards the beginning of the movie, and then they don't know what to do, and it just all falls apart. And it's just like you have a lot of characters in this movie too that they ultimately end up not really doing anything with. Paul Bettany's not in this movie nearly enough
to justify
like,
being the lead
Yeah.
character
Like,
of the movie.
What?
I agree with you. The start of the movie is it's entertaining for what it is. Like, I like the opening action scenes, and especially the one where the demon ice cream man comes. Like, I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's a strong sort of 30 minutes, and then nothing happens. Nothing. Oh, and the grandma of demon
Yeah.
is quite cool. It's quite iconic for that movie. But like, they're literally just moseying on around the diner, being like. They're like-
It is just
Sorry, I
like,
was like,
iconic.
I mean, like, if you think Legion, you think of that scene. That's what I
From
mean.
the trailer, yeah.
yeah.
Because a lot of people are thinking about Legion.
I go to sleep and I dream of Legion, the best film about the story of Jesus and the demons who came to attack him. That's what the
Passion
Bible.
of Christ. What?
Yeah. Mel Gibson did not know what he was talking about when he made that movie, compared to Legion. Anyway, let's get back on track, Nick. So. Yeah, then the middle like 40 minutes is like them moseying around being like, should we find food? It's like, well, you're in a diner, so fuck yeah, you're going to find food. And then it's just everyone being like, not knowing what's going on, even though they've spent 40 minutes fighting demons and someone's literally told them, oh yeah, this chick's pregnant with the chosen one. Everyone's like, well, I don't understand what's going on. And then the final 40 minutes is like, fine. It's action packed. It's fine.
I think they were like, we know where this movie, we know how we want to end this
Yeah.
movie, and we have some cool ideas for set pieces, and then we'll just figure out the rest. And
As we're
yeah,
filming.
like as we spoke about with like Daybreakers, we were saying like
Yeah.
that's a movie that knew its world, it knew it's what it wanted to do, and this film just like thought it had cool ideas and just
Yeah.
didn't really know how to put them all together. And like as you said about the ice cream man and the demonic grandmother, like those are the two sort of
Cool
yeah,
elements. They're the
entertaining
ideas that
sequences.
almost would have sparked the story. They
Yeah.
would have gone like, imagine like we got this like demon grandma and she says the C word because it's edgy, and then she tells us she's gonna kill the baby, which is even edgier. It's like, oh, 2010, we can do things like this now. And then they're like, let's write a script around that.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh shit, we can't fill 100 minutes of just this.
But also, we'll manage to convince really good actors.
Yeah,
to star
that's-
in it.
yeah.
Like Paul
I mean-
Bettany, not a terrible actor. Dennis Quaid,
Has his
the
moments.
jury's out.
I think we'll stop at Lucas Black. I think
Yeah.
that's like, poor guy. He's got this and Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
And like, is he meant like I don't know how old he's meant to be in this because in Tokyo
40?
Drift he was meant to be like 17, and dude, you had a beard and chest. And this one,
He also had like the accent and voice of a 40-year-old man in that movie, whereas in Legion as well, he is like at least doubled in age in the 3 years since Tokyo Drift has
Yeah.
come out.
it was just yeah,
Poor
it's
Lucas
just
Black.
it's just a nothing movie, which is a shame because you can do a lot with the basic story. You could have made something mildly entertaining instead of just
Also, could have made it 80 minutes long.
Yeah.
Like make this
Yeah.
like this is the sort of like action horror film that you just make super quick, super frantic, super fast paced. It's the one that maybe 10 years from now, if we were talking about it on a podcast, maybe where we'd go, you know what? It's like, wow, this got too real. where we'd go like that was frantic, that was violent, that was a lot of fun, it was fast paced, and it was dumb fun entertainment where they tried to make it like this epic story of the chosen one and then demons trying to kill it.
Well, and if you would have done that, because I think all of our biggest problem is the middle does nothing.
Nothing,
Like you
yeah.
watch the movie and you're like, nothing is developing. Like there's just nothing. At least if it would have been frantic and they're throwing
Yeah.
all these things at you, and
Yeah.
even if it doesn't quite work, at least you're like, oh, there's so much going on.
You're entertained
and like
to an
this is
extent.
crazy, and
Yeah.
at least you'd be like,
You'd be distracted enough to realize nothing's happening, but I don't
But,
care
like, I
because if
don't-
you're killing people off, hey,
Yeah.
I like that. In
Well,
my
that's the
horror
biggest thing.
movies.
They start killing people off, and then they don't kill anyone off for a little bit. And you're like, but I don't care enough about these people. Like,
Yeah.
start killing them. It's what I want.
Yeah.
and well, and then the one girl you're supposed to care about, because her relationship with her parents
Yeah.
is just like the worst apparently, and that's a
That's
side
right,
side
yeah.
plot you're supposed to care about. They just kill her off screen.
Yeah.
Like she just dies.
yeah,
and,
the one person
like-
you truly actually care about to an
and they
extent.
just don't even really acknowledge like
Yeah, it's very much just like, did she survive? Oh, that's it. And you're like, no, she should have had like this epic death scene.
Wait, we still got 50 minutes of movie left? Like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And then you get to the end, and when the confrontation happens
Yeah.
with the angels,
That's right.
and you're just like,
Yeah, and like his Michael,
Yeah.
his entrance into the film, it's almost as if we're meant to like know who he is, or
Yeah.
we're meant to. It's like where they've showed us all this footage so that when he arrives, it'll be this moment. We're kind of like, all right, you're here now.
Start doing something.
We don't really care, but hey, maybe you'll entertain us. Nope.
Nah.
I think jumping off that point, like the film opens with the Terminator opening.
Yes.
Like it's
It
it
is
is
right.
I
it is
forgot about that.
it is the Terminator opening. What made the Terminator opening work? It was intrigue, not this is the hero. It wasn't. He was the villain.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it was intrigue of who is this guy,
yeah.
and that's
the,
Well, 'cause they-
Well, it's like because they're kind of almost setting up Paul Bettany like to be the villain because he's gone there to
Yeah.
kill her,
Yeah.
and then he's gone against his orders. But the way that it plays out, it's almost like he's like he was always going to go against his orders.
Because they
Where-
don't, in that scene, doesn't another Archangel come straight away and they fight? Or it's like he starts
Yeah.
shooting someone. So it's automatically, you know, like, oh, he's rebelling against something. Like for the fact that these people are coming out and trying to hurt him,
Yeah.
like he's rebelling against. So they sort of give it away straight
too,
away.
yeah, too quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, this movie not good, and it was very badly directed, and that's like we've really one other thing that I want to mention though, it kind of reminded me kind of like Hellboy from last year. It is just over the top violent for
Yeah.
no reason. Like the violence is just crazily grotesque.
It's like really cruel.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you're like, sometimes that works.
Yeah.
In this kind of case, it's like, no, I think you just almost wanted to push your boundaries of your rating. And it's just like, it doesn't have any effect on us because we don't actually care about anybody either.
Well, I mean, like, my biggest example, the one that's burned into my mind that I wish was not, is the scene where the dad explodes, and then
yeah.
you see the guy's skeleton in his back.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Like, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck was this scene for, other
Yeah.
than just to be
Shock value.
gross?
Complete
Like,
shock value.
blah, nah. It didn't earn it because I didn't care about either of those characters either. So when they died in this really grotesque way, it's just like, why do I care other than
No.
I'm really grossed out right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's overall my biggest problem with this film was that it was just grotesque for the sake of being grotesque, and very badly written, very badly directed. Not
So we're
entertaining.
not recommending this movie.
No,
from
no.
from what I've gathered.
We're not.
If you're like 13 and you've just started watching movies,
If you're Nick in 2010.
legit, if you are me in 2010, you'll love this movie because I had 7 brain cells back then and I have 9 now because I've grown up.
Well, yeah, solid non-recommendation from us. Let's move on to our last film of this week, Extraordinary Measures. That one.
Oh, they did Oh, that's a horrible picture. Why
Oh,
would they
that's
do
doing
him
this
dirty
thing
like
now.
that?
A drama centered on the efforts of John and Eileen Crowley to find a researcher who might have a cure for their 2 children's rare genetic disorder.
Brendan Fraser looks like he needs to take a shit in that photo.
It's like, why would they do him like that?
He's
That's the
holding.
worst
He's
photo.
holding in a poo all day. He's like,
let's.
Oh,
all
God,
right.
it's so
I think this is the thing. Let's talk about the poster.
Yeah, yeah,
Now
that's
it's
what we
being-
need to
and
do it, yeah.
also, why? Like, I get that you want to put his family in the photo, but like that is the most awkward.
Are they sitting on a road?
Like, I don't
They're
know.
on the beach.
well, it's great because they're obviously sitting inside
But like,
on a beach.
but also it's like this weird opacity where they're like there, but they're not. Quite.
Yeah.
Like, almost like
Like-
they're dead.
Wow.
They're not dead, by the way.
We watched a
Spoiler
different movie,
alert,
didn't
they're
we?
not
That's
dead.
not like that's not the main kid either.
No.
And also, that picture there makes me feel like Harrison Ford is going to be some sort of force to be reckoned with in the movie. Like
Yeah.
he's the good guy.
Like, it makes you
nothing-
feel like
yeah.
he's the villain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he's the guy who's like, I want to help fix your sick kids. But right there, I'm like, oh, he's
It
going to be
looks
the,
like they're about to like.
the corporate entity.
It looks like they're like giving each other the like, I'm fucking coming after you look, and it's like
And
they're
it's,
work
like, and
together.
it's typical Harrison Ford where like even when he's playing a nice guy, he's still like gruff as fuck.
Yeah.
So you're like, I know that you're trying to help me, but can you just talk to me like I'm like you don't hate me? Like this whole movie, you know, it's like, give me back my family, where it's like, I'm going to help your family. Like, all right,
Those
Harrison
are
Ford.
100% not Brendan Fraser's eyes either. Look at those.
no way,
eyes.
no way.
Oh, he's been hard done by. Poor bloke.
All right. So, Extraordinary Measures. Easily the least bad movie on the out of the 3. Like,
That's
it's
true.
the
Yeah.
least bad.
It was the most enjoyable in my very,
Yeah.
very humble opinion.
it was watchable. Like, the biggest problem this film has is it's a Hallmark film.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
not
legit.
It's,
That got a wide release somehow.
somehow like the way it tells its story is very light. It's very easygoing. It's a
The-
nice movie.
The biggest issue I think with this movie, and it was going to be kind of an issue you'd run into if you wanted to stay as true to the real story as possible, is there's not really your big climactic moment. There's not really, I mean, there are moments that are sad, and there are moments where you feel like, oh, like maybe this isn't going to happen, and maybe something tragic is going to come out of it because they can't get their funding or they can't get whatever it is they need. But it just never felt urgent enough at
Yeah.
any point to feel like it had a spike.
Because we get that one scene early on where we think the daughter is going to be is
Yeah.
deathly sick, and then within the next scene she's better, she's recovering, she's still obviously got her illness, but like I feel like, and I know because it's based on a true story, I feel like this is actually one movie that's sort of stuck too close to the true story. Because obviously when we see films like this, we want it to be a dramatized version of it, as
It's
sad,
super embellished, and
yeah,
this was almost
as sad as the
really
real
safe.
life events are, you kind of you need to add a little bit more drama to it. So having the daughter stay sick for maybe the whole movie could have helped, but yeah, it felt like there was very minimal stakes, and the stakes of like he has to raise this much money to get the grant, to get the funding. And then within 3 scenes, another montage, the good old montage episode this week, they have enough money to start. And I was like, oh, we're only 15 minutes into the movie
Yeah.
so far.
I think it's kind of like it's hard to really criticize this movie
Yes.
because it's like telling this true story, this very amazing true story that they found the cure for this disease, and you know these children were told they wouldn't live past their 10th birthday,
Yeah,
or
something
something,
crazy
and
like that,
they
yeah.
have, and because it's so nice and it's got such good thought behind it, you can't be like really criticize it.
Yeah.
But you're like, nothing much happens, but
It's
it was fine.
It's
Like,
just
it
not
was-
a well-made movie. It's a very, like you said, Hallmark is the biggest thing this has.
It
going.
would be
It's
like on Netflix. now.
yeah, it's a cheap production in which Harrison Ford executive produced as well. So he obviously cared about the story enough. But yeah, it's like one of those ones where it's like we've got 3 or 4 sets to work with. We've got a first-time director who's coming from maybe a TV background, and
We
this
have
is
a
also
nice like glossy sheen over
yeah,
this.
everything sort of is just a little bit angelic in this. So it to me, it's like weird that it's a wide release movie. Like I wouldn't pay money to go see this
And
in
it
the
costs
cinema.
like it. I mean, it was
How much did it
moderate,
cost?
but it was like $30 million or something to
Yeah.
That's
make.
crazy.
Which
yeah.
when you look at it, you sort of go, really? Like I'm guessing Harrison Ford might have been a
Yeah.
big chunk of that. And
maybe Fraser.
Brendan Fraser was this is probably on the way out
Yeah.
for him.
Who knows? But yeah, I mean, like,
$31 million budget.
yeah, okay, so there we
Yeah.
go. That's weird.
So that's weird.
But like Peter said, it's hard to like most of the films we've watched for this show in January, I've gone in with the intention of shitting on. And this is the first one I've gone like, I really don't want to make fun of this movie.
Yeah.
And it does a good enough job at telling its story where I'm like, okay, I don't have to shit on this movie for being a badly constructed movie. It's just not well made.
Yeah, I didn't like the way that they wrote
Yes.
the eldest daughter. Like they wrote her as someone who was like, you know, wise beyond her years and had like
A weird chip on her shoulder.
and was kind of like sassy vocab. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
she
like
did
Harrison-
speak like a 30-year-old
Yeah,
lady.
and
actually, yeah.
and that sort of made me just like go, oh, I don't want to hate you because of what you're going through, but you just need to tone it down a little bit for me.
Again, yeah, my criticisms for this just come from the writing. The biggest sin this movie has is the writing is so just
It's pedestrian.
yeah, it's predictable. It's okay, cool. There's no threat realistically in the film. Like there's not that driving force out other than like, you know, oh, my kid's going to die, and there isn't that timer really. Every time they introduce a timer, they take it away.
Well, right. Like every time we've basically all been saying is there are obstacles that pop up, but within 3 or 4 scenes,
They're done.
they've been solved.
Yeah.
So there's no real underlying tension other than, you know, there is pretty much a deadline in terms of trying to find this cure for his children, but it just never feels like it's urgent enough, which is unfortunate. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's a fine movie. Like
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah. You wouldn't go out of your way to like seek it out, but if you turned on the TV and saw it, and,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
like
you'd
your
prob-
Channel
yeah.
7 midday movie.
And you'd probably
It's-
go, hey, Harrison Ford, Brendan Fraser, like Kerry Russell, like it's a
Yeah.
good cast. Jared,
like, hey,
like early
hey,
Jared
Nan,
Harris.
you'd like this movie. I'd tell my Nan, and she'd watch it because
Yeah,
it's
and-
wholesome, it's family friendly,
And
it's a nice
that's
story.
where the film comes down for me. Is like the cast do their the best with what they've got.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's not a bad performance.
No.
They're not going. Oh, you don't watch it going, oh god, they can't act. Like they can. They're doing the best they can.
Yeah.
It's just badly
You just
written.
go, oh, that's a bit of an awkward line that somebody gave them to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
gave
And like
them
the
to-
fact that they don't look too terrible saying it means like that's a good actor who
Yeah.
can say these really
Average,
shitty
yeah.
average lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're not going to go on too long about this one like we did with
Yeah.
the other two, just because there isn't.
There's not much to say.
Yeah,
really.
there's just we don't have the passion of hatred for this one that we did the other
That's
two.
the highest praise. We didn't passionately hate Extraordinary Measures.
So, guys, that one was Extraordinary Measures. It's a fine movie, and I think that's just
That's where we gotta leave it.
yeah, we leave it at that. So, box office results for this weekend: Avatar with $34.9 million in its 6th week of release. Legion opened to number 2 with 17.5 million. The Book of Eli held at 15.7 million on its 2nd week of release. Tooth Fairy opened to 14 million at number 4. The Lovely Bones held at 8.4 million on its 7th week of release, 2nd in wide release. Sherlock Holmes held with 6.62 million on its 5th week of release. Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Squeakquel, had 6.4 million. Extraordinary Measures opened to $6 million at number 8. It's Complicated held with 5.8 million on its 5th week, and The Spy Next Door at its 2nd week dropped all the way down to $4.5 million.
Oh, shame though.
Poor Billy. Hope Billy Ray Cyrus didn't have a back end deal on that movie. Oh, poor guy.
The leap year dropped from 8.
Thank
Blindside dropped from 9, and Up in the Air dropped from 10. In major news stories from this week, Fox moves forward on the Planet of the Apes reboot that will eventually become Rise of the Planet of the
That's
Apes.
so exciting. Like, that is so cool to know that it worked as well.
Yeah.
Like, in retrospect, like, that's
And like
awesome.
not just like created a a good first movie, then created like arguably one of the strongest trilogies.
Oh,
of the
absolutely! I
last 10
love the
years.
Planet of the Apes trilogy.
Yeah, it's easy. I would definitely say that it's
Yeah.
one of the strongest trilogies this decade that we
Yeah.
got. Like
Yeah.
standalone
Which
trilogies.
does not get talked about enough.
No, it
when
really
people,
doesn't.
when
No,
people
not at
talk
all.
about trilogies and big franchise
Yeah.
kind of movies, it doesn't get mentioned enough. But I think that's kind of the tragedy of how strong it was. Like
Yeah.
people don't have that kind of hot take, kind of like
And
those
the
movies are
consensus
bad.
is that it was all very good, and we now have the conversation of the starts of the conversation of should we be having performance caption actors
That's
being
what I was-
nominated for
yeah,
awards?
Like, there's so many people like Andy Serkis should absolutely
kills it.
be up for it, and you watch it and go, can't argue that. Like
Yeah.
that is not just him doing the actions.
That's
like-
not him just
like-
being an
yeah.
ape. He's also having an ape that has a character. Like there is
Yeah.
character to this. It's incredible.
It's and it sounds really bizarre to be like this.
I might
this
watch
ape
this
is-
movie
this ape is
tonight,
a
actually.
character, but you're like, no, he's like. It's ironic that he's like the strongest, like,
yeah.
human element of that
Yeah.
movie is the ape. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible film. We will get to it next year. Reports that Maleficent is to be Tim Burton's next project after his upcoming Alice in Wonderland remake, which will come out in 5 weeks.
great.
Oh shit! Means we're gonna watch it in 5
Great,
minutes.
Yeah.
dude.
Fuck.
I will never forgive him for what he did to that movie. Like, it was just so bad, and I'm really not looking forward to having to watch it again because I'm probably gonna have like an entire
PSCD.
rewritten. Like, no, I'm just gonna sit there and be like, "This is fucking terrible, and this is fucking terrible, and I hate this."
Maybe instead of just talking about it, we should just actually just watch Taylor watch it for an hour and a
Just like
half.
live commentary. That
Yeah.
Yeah.
His house is burned down by the end of it all.
Very
The-
thankful he didn't take Maleficent though.
Yes,
'cause
exactly.
I really
So,
liked where that one
Ultimately,
went.
yeah, he doesn't do Maleficent. He goes on to do so after this is Dark Shadows, Big Eyes,
Miss Peregrine,
Peregrines, and
and
Dumbo.
Dumbo.
That's his next 4.
I think it's really interesting though that he ended up with Alice in Wonderland instead of Maleficent just originally, because I kind of get where you look at Alice in Wonderland and go, oh yeah, Tim Burton, but to me Maleficent is more
I
like
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
has
It's-
that dark undertone
yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's more
like it would have been like you would think, oh, it's be so reminiscent of like
Edward
when he was so
Scissorhands or
good.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Edward
Yeah.
Scissorhands, like Sleepy Hollow. like,
Yeah,
he just did all
actually,
these amazing
Maleficent,
movies.
Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
Like, you can definitely make those similar vibes
Yeah.
and still make it a child accessible film.
And he just like sold out, and it hurt us
You make
all.
that Disney money now.
And lastly, we have Clark Gregg is confirmed to return as Agent Coulson in Iron Man 2 and Thor.
That's cool.
It's interesting that this was. I mean, right now is probably when they started filming Thor, and they shot the post-credit scene for Iron Man 2.
It's
which
kind
was-
of it's kind of funny, like going back and seeing news stories like this. That this is the start of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like it's not even called the Marvel Cinematic Universe
And I
at
don't
this
think
point.
anybody would have.
Oh,
predicted
shit, no.
that it
Like,
was
I-
going
so-
to
I mean,
become what it has.
I mean, we get the news story in a couple of weeks that Chris Evans is hired. Like that comes.
That's
That's
so
this
weird.
decade. Is
That's
that we
so
we
weird.
you know right now? I haven't put it in here, but I just do remember there was the competition. It was Chris Evans had the role, but he didn't want it because he was
He's
terrified.
already-
He was terrified to take the role because if it hit, that was his decade. He was locked in for a decade.
Yeah.
If it missed, he missed out. He missed as Captain America.
Yeah.
That's gonna hit your career. So
That's insane.
It was, do I take it or not? And then the other one, which is funny now to look back, it was John Krasinski. He was the other one they wanted.
Which
Ah.
I think at the time he would have been like, I don't see that. But now that you know
Now he's done
what John Krasinski
13 hours and he's
and
Jack Ryan,
and you
stuff,
sort of just
yeah.
go, he would have absolutely killed it
Yeah.
as Captain America.
So it's interesting. But they're the 3 big news stories from this.
That's cool.
From this week. In Australian release dates, on January the 21st, we had Invictus, which was 7 weeks after the US release.
That's a good movie.
9, which was 6 weeks after US release. We got our Toy Story 1 and 2 3D re-release and
3D.
In the Loop, which was 27 weeks after US
that's
release.
a crime, man. That's an absolute crime. Armando Iannucci, or whatever his name is so good, and I hate that we got same thing happened with Death of Stalin a few years ago. We got that like 6 months later. Australians like good movies too. We just don't all see them.
Well,
I feel like maybe we're getting slightly.
Yeah, look, we've come a long way in 10 years.
we actually have, like, when we start talking about some of these release dates
Yeah.
later in like
Like,
5
hey,
years.
let's not forget, we got Tooth Fairy a week before the US.
Yeah, fuck yeah, Australia.
I mean, hey, when we get to 09, we'll talk about How to Train Your Dragon, which we got like 8 weeks before the US.
Yeah.
This weekend, or last weekend, we got My Spy, which I know is not great, but we got that
We're at 2 months ahead.
early.
Dude,
So
when we got that invite for How to Train Your Dragon last year, and it was like, wait a second, there's no way.
I was
There's
convinced.
no
I was
way that we're getting
convinced.
this months before the
Yeah.
US.
I was convinced
No
it was
way.
wrong. It was that no, this is the date in Event Cinemas was wrong because they
Yeah.
are known to being wrong, and I was like, "There's no way it's coming out on that day."
Yeah.
You can't give us a movie that's considered 2020 in 2019. It makes no sense.
Yeah, so it was weird. Well, guys, that is this week's episode. Thank you so much for checking it out. I'd like to thank my wonderful panel. Taylor, how you going?
I'm good. We made it.
Yes,
We survived.
We did. Where
So-
can they find you online?
You can,
On your channel.
On my
I'm
channel.
going to do that every week.
you can find the links down in the description. It's generally something having to do with finely tailored. There are variations of it. I'm not going to explain all of them. You can find them.
Nick, where can they find you online?
Hey, look, when I'm not camping out here on the Finally Tailored YouTube channel, Instagram at Nick's Flicksfix.
And Peter.
Twitter at RatedPDG and Rotten Tomatoes Peter Gray, Gray.
Oh.
Peter Gray will see you now.
And guys, you can find me just at all various social media at Jacob London. Until next week, where we will be watching Edge of Darkness and When in Rome.
Guys, please let us know if you watched any of these movies along with us this week, because I really want to hear
Yeah.
your opinions if you did. Even if you saw them 10 years ago, I want to know if you have any memories of having seen any of these movies. We want you guys to be a part of this conversation with us.
We absolutely do. All right, guys. Until then, my name is Jacob London, and we hope you've enjoyed the show.
See ya.